Welcome to this beginning tutorial on EXANIMA, and I'm glad you're here because I'd like you to learn the game. And so that's what this is all about, how to play EXANIMA. And again, this is for absolute beginners. Now, the first thing you're going to come in here, and this can be a little bit confusing when you first come in. One thing I would recommend doing is reading through the manual right here. There's quite a bit in here that you can learn. So after you're done with the tutorial, I would actually go through this too. There's quite a few little tips in here that I may or may not cover. The other thing is when you first come in here, you're going to see this begin, and this continue should be grayed out. Begin will actually start the story or campaign mode, which is comprised of 8 very, very large levels. There are more to come soon, apparently, but right now it's 8 very, very large levels. That is what this tutorial is going to be on. We're going to be talking about how to learn how basically the basics of combat, damage, health, several topics we're going to be covering so that you can get underway in this amazing game. Now, the other big part to this is arena mode. They are very different. Yes, the combat is similar, but other than that, they are very different ways to play the game. This is not going to be about arena, though we are going to use this in a few seconds here, but to train. But for the most part, these are very separate. So if you go into arena, it has its. You can start a career. It has its own continue. This continue right here is the beginning and continue here are for the campaign mode, and that's what we're going to be covering in this tutorial. So I did mention there is some usefulness with arena in terms of the campaign, and that is how to learn how to fight. That's probably the hardest part of the gameplay when you're first starting out, is how to learn how to fight. So I would recommend highly, before you start the campaign and take a lot of damage, I would recommend you come to arena first, and it has a practice mode. I would come in here and I would select novice. Now, in order to unlock expert, you need to kill, there's 5 guys in here and there's 5 guys in here, but in order to unlock expert, you need to beat all 5 guys. But for our purposes, for this tutorial, you really only need to, I think the first 2 guys are important. The 3rd guy carries a shield. I wouldn't worry about that. You'll learn how to, but when you start seeing shielded guys, you can come here and practice. But for the most part, you want to just get the basic mechanics down of the fighting and then move on to the campaign. You don't want to spend a lot of time here, unless you do. I actually kind of enjoyed this and went through and fought all these guys. But if you're just wanting to get to the campaign as fast as possible, you really only need to fight the first 2 guys. All right, so we're going to come in here to novice mode. Doesn't really matter. This isn't going to be your character, but it's just for the fighting, so you can do what you want here. Whoops, I got to enter a name. We'll just enter Atomic. And so you hit next. And then don't worry so much about this stuff. Just throw it on unless you want to go in naked. Just put the shoes on. This isn't going to take over to your normal character in the campaign. It's just for the arena. So there are several weapons to choose from. I would start out using the short sword, which is a one-handed weapon. And by the way, you can click on pretty much any item in the game and it'll open up a window and you can compare stats. That's very useful. So for the early part of the game, you're going to be probably using one-handed weapons. Then you will move on to the bigger weapons. This is the bill hook, and what it has is length, and you can see that right here. That's its main advantage. Eventually, later in the game, you'll probably be using almost entirely two-handed. There are a couple caveats to that. Some people go for dual wielding, and some people actually become a brawler. But for the most part, that's going to be your main strategy. That's the strategy I would recommend you start out in the campaign. First, use some one-handed weapons, and then also if you find a good two-handed weapon, start using that in the game too. You want to practice with both of these. So these are the 2 ones I would start out with. I would first start out with the one-handed weapon, practice with that, and then move on to the bill hook. This is going to actually be a really nice weapon for the first 3 or 4 levels. It's going to be very relevant for you, and it does quite a bit of damage. Okay, so we are first going to just start out with the one-handed sword. We're going to go in here and we're going to talk about combat, which is really the essential part of this game. Now, when you come into the arena, practice mode, it's going to put you automatically into combat mode, so you don't have to worry about flipping it on or anything. You will in the campaign story mode, but when you first come in here, you're going to come in here. This guy is going to start attacking you. Here's what I would recommend you first do. You see that red circle? That's the key to the combat. Now I want you to sort of look at that. This is the hardest part that I didn't get right away. That circle is basically where your face and your body is going to point to. If I point it this way, look, I'm starting to look other ways. So just keep that in mind. That's really the critical thing to gain first. So I'm now pointed away from him, which is obviously not a good idea unless you're trying to run away from him. But for the most part, you want to, on your enemy, you want to keep this circle on him at all times. You want to be in front of him. Trust me, in the heat of combat, you can start to, it can actually even go off the screen. It's happened to me many times. You can get very disoriented. See how that happens? However, you can always bring it back and just get back in front of your enemy. Okay, that's the first thing you want to understand. The other thing is this circle will be where you're aiming for. So if you want to aim for the head, you might want to put it over the head. That might not, I mean, you don't have to necessarily do that. I usually just aim for the chest, but you know, you can basically, and this might come into play though if some guy has a shield and you're trying to get a headshot. You might want to try to aim for the head. If you aim lower, you're going to obviously go for the legs. So just keep that in mind, where that circle is kind of where your face is pointing and your body too. So if I start doing this again, I'm sort of turning around now. See that? So just keep that in mind. That's the first part I was sort of getting confused about. So just keep that. You want to basically try to keep that red circle on your enemy at all times if you can. Now there will be exceptions. I mean, you can move it over here. It's not going to be the end of the world, but for the most part, you want to try to keep it around here. That's the first part I want to point out. Now the second part is the game has a basic, several different types of moves you can do. The first and probably most basic move is just you left click your button and he's going to do an attack from right to left. That's probably the most basic attack. It's the one you should master in the beginning. And basically what you're there's also an overhead. I don't want you to worry about overhead shots. There's also, by the way, you can also attack from the left. There's a way to do that. I really don't even want you to worry about that. And there's also a thrusting move you can do where you kind of go thrust forward. Don't worry about those moves right now. All you're worried about at this point, this early part in the game, is just the standard left to right. This one right here. Just worry about that. And believe it or not, that can take you to the end of the game, because that's actually my favorite attack. But you will learn the others. I mean, primarily if you knock your guy over, you might want to take a shot at an overhead hit. But for the most part, the one you're worried about in the beginning, again, is just this basic left to right attack with the left button. See how I got turned around there? I just got turned around. So that's just the basic attack. Okay, so that's the attack you want to learn first. Now, secondly, and this is probably the biggest part of fighting. At its core level, you are trying to dodge attack. Always get that in your head. Dodge, attack. He attacks, you attack. Now, that obviously wasn't done very well, but you'll get the timing down. But so now I'll actually kind of play it like I'm playing this. All right, so we're just going to get in here. See how I dodged the attack, then attacked. So it's all about dodge, attack. It's that simple. Now, the second guy is good because he's got a very long-ranged weapon. And that's why you should play him too. Get used to, because you will run into enemies that have two-handed weapons. And the key here, again, it's the same thing, dodge, attack. But this one you have to be a little bit more careful because he's got a much longer weapon, longer range that can hit you. So the other thing you want to kind of practice is how to stay just out of their range, but not too far out of their range. You want to have there's a sweet spot where you can get in there, launch your attack. If you miss, fine, back off. You know, see how I just missed there? You will have a lot of misses. But there we got a hit in, okay? But it will happen. There's also times where if you don't feel right about the attack, like you might be in mid-attack and you stop and you just go back. I've halted my attack several times because something doesn't feel right. You think the guy's going to hit you. You can always call off your attack by just moving back. And that's the thing. You can always just move back away from your enemy. Now that's going to depend on how much room you have and other circumstances. It's not always that easy. Sometimes you'll be in a tight space and you just have to live it out with them. But for the most part, you will have a lot of opportunities to stay away from your enemy. And that's what we're doing here. Okay, second thing I want to mention. In fact, what I would do for a while is just avoid him. Before even launching attacks, just practice this, avoiding some of his swings. And then you'll get into the point where, you dodge, attack. Always keep that in your head. Dodge, attack. It's that simple. Dodge, attack. Dodge, attack. That's at a basic level. That can take you to the end of the game. That little strategy right there. The other thing is that I want to point out is you will, your character, if you're pointed at him, will try to block shots. Block there. See, I just blocked it there. He will automatically try to play defense if you're not attacking. Now, obviously, if you're attacking, you are exposed. So just keep that in mind, too, when you're attacked. You see how my back was basically exposed to him. You're very exposed. Excuse me. So just keep that in mind. So that's just the basics. And here, we'll try to block it again. See? He's trying to block it. Well, that time he hit me. But there, he blocked it. So for the most part, your character will automatically try to block. It won't always work, but a lot of times it does. So that is the basics of fighting. And again, you should try to defeat these first two guys. Do it a couple times. And then once you've done that, I think you can move on. Once you get the hang of it. See, that didn't feel right. See, I kind of called off the attack, called it off there too. That felt right. So I went in there full bore and took him out. And there you go. All right, so we're going to exit this now. And so that's basically the core part of the fighting. So now we're going to go and talk about combat more. I'm just going to switch over to another character. Actually, what I think we're going to do is we're just going to kick off a new campaign. So we're going to hit begin, and you're going to come in here. You will eventually unlock some other characters. Definitely pick unknown. Do not pick villager, because the unknown gets spells. I believe these villagers, I haven't even really played that much. It doesn't allow you to use spells, or maybe limited use of them. So you're coming to your character here. Do what you want. I sometimes just give them, you can give them different voices. Kind of cool. Play around with this, who you like. Hit next. Don't worry about his initial gear. You're going to be replacing this on the first level, probably. I mean, you can. This is more for looks. This stuff is basically pretty much useless. Has very few stats, so you don't need to spend a lot of time worrying about this. We're going to talk about skills. This plus sign means you can add a skill, but you're not going to. You will eventually do it at the screen, but I don't want to do this right now because I want to show you something. But you can add it from here. When you initially come into, when you come back into the game, or you first start your character, if you see this plus, this means you have the ability to add some skills. But we're going to talk about that real quickly here. Then you're going to come to the spell screen. Again, we can get to this from the gameplay. It's another screen we can, so we're not going to worry about that. But we are going to talk about that in a few minutes. We're not going to worry about spells right now too much. So we're just going to hit begin. And of a walkthrough on the first level. There's not going to be many spoilers here, but it's just mainly to show you some things. So you're going to first wake up into this nightmare. You can zoom with the scroll bar, so that's good. And also, if you hold the scroll bar down, that's how you move the camera. One thing I do want to point out is that when you fight, when you're in a fight, this you do have to actually. You do actually have to flip into combat mode. Right now, I'm in exploration mode. That means if a creature was here and they came up and attacked me, they could just start swinging and nothing's going to happen. I can't do any attacking and I can't do any defense. In order to do that, I need to flip into combat mode. Notice how he walks a little bit different. He's a little bit more defensive. Yes. And actually in here, it might be a good idea to actually do that. Actually, let's get the torch first. Let's flip out. Now we're out. So we can go pick things up and do different things that you can't do in combat mode. So we're going to pick up the torch. To open up your inventory, the default is the I button. So you hit that. You just drop it in here, and now he's carrying the torch. I want to point out that this torch is the only torch you have in the game. So keep it safe. I'll just say that. Don't forget it in some level. Because there are some areas in this game that are completely pitch black, and so you cannot lose this. Later on, you'll get some equipment that help you see in the dark, and you could live without it, but I basically never get rid of the torch, ever. The second thing, over near these crates, you're going to get your first weapon. It's kind of the best weapon in here. If we click on it, it's the metal stake. So take that, read the parchment, dump the parchment. This is your inventory where you put your items. This is everything that you're currently wielding. I will say that everything that you have here will add to your encumbrance. Right now, we're not adding anything to the encumbrance because we have so little. But the heavier equipment comes, this will start to add dots. Anything in here does not add encumbrance. I want to point that out. So you could add a bunch of suits of armor down here. It's not going to add to your encumbrance unless you start to wear it. Same thing with weapons, everything that you're holding. So just keep that in mind. However, there is a limitation how much you can put in here, and eventually you'll hit that. And if you try to drag something, it won't let you. It will just kick it back out. You won't be able to put it in your inventory. So you will have to kind of keep an eye on how much stuff you have. You don't have to worry about that early game. That's the nice part. So again, I would practice a little bit here, flipping in between modes. Kind of get used to that. Here I just flipped in and out. The default key for that is tab. However, I changed it. And that's the thing. You're probably going to also want to go to settings and hit controls, and you can tune all of these the way you want them. So that's just, you can tune. I use the arrow keys. I think most people probably use WASD, but I like to use the arrow keys. I like the right shift for the run sprint. I use a lot of the defaults, but some of them I don't. You can flip weapons, so that's nice. That's between your secondary and your primary, so that's pretty good. There's lots of things you can do, and we're going to talk about these keys. So in order, the default for flipping into combat mode is the tab button. Now, again, so you would hit tab, right, and you do that, that's going to flip you between these modes. Like I said, I would recommend just kind of flipping between those, get used to that. I'd also kind of recommend opening this door. You don't have to worry about any enemies because they're not around right now. And sort of move the camera. That's how you're going to move when combat mode. You're going to move that camera. So you remember, you hold the scroll bar down and kind of practice going in and out of these doors in combat mode. You may need to do that. You might need to retreat. So just kind of practice that a little bit. I will point out that if you are in a fight and you fall down, and a lot of times that's what you really have to worry about. You have to watch out for these objects. The physics in this game are rather incredible. And see, I just fell over. But if you're backing up and you fall down over something, you are in a world of hurt because your enemy can now attack you, and you will not parry, you will not try to block his strikes until you stand back up. Keep that in mind. That's kind of an important thing to know. So again, I would just kind of practice this a little bit, flipping out of these modes, doing some practice swings. You can actually practice swings here, do some practice swings, get used to it before you actually get into a fight. And again, there's going to be nobody around here until you start going deeper into the dungeons. Very safe in the initial beginning. Okay, one thing that confused me, I'm actually going to go back into exploration mode now, so we're just going to walk around and look. But one thing that confused me early, and actually I couldn't figure this out for a while, what were these blinking lights down here? Not very intuitive, but it does actually make sense. And I kind of like the way they did this, because it lets you know, this is basically letting you know, hey, you have a skill that you can now assign and train on. Same thing for the blue, that is the spells. So just keep that in mind. This is telling you that, hey, you have an unassigned skill that you can now train on, and if you don't do it, you're kind of losing, because as you walk around, as you kill enemies, you will gain experience. So basically, I'm not gaining any experience right now until I assign these and train on them. So first, we're going to open up the power tree. And there's two buttons. And I still use the defaults for this. To open up the power tree, this is basically for the spells, you hit P. And remember this screen? We had this from when we made our character. So you can click, this is where you can store your spells. You can store up to 10 of them. Just keep that in mind. You can store up to 10 of these spells. If you highlight a spell, that means you have it queued up and you can use it. So just keep that in mind right here. How do you use it? These equate to numbers. I believe this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So if we wanted to use let me pull that back up. If we wanted to use this, we would hit number 1 and it would do it. But we can only have these highlighted one at a time. I believe there's a skill that allows you to have 2 of these highlighted. But so right now we would be using this spell. So there are different types of spell lines. There's Mind, there's Force. Force is probably the biggest one. Mind's big too. These are probably the two biggest ones. And then you, in order to get these other ones, you actually have to train in them as a skill point. So let's go over to Force. Okay, so you will automatically start out with Blast, which is actually one of the best spells in the game. From the spells, there's different lines that you have. Okay, Kinesis, Bolt, Wave, Barrier. I'd say the two most important ones that a lot of people use, I would say, are Kinesis and Barrier. So let's go ahead and let's select Barrier. Let's select Kinesis. Oh, by the way, you also start out with Mind. So those two come, they're innate. That means you get them right away. And we'll use the Blast. I'll show you how to use that in a minute. We're not going to worry about that right now. What we're going to worry about is how to make sure we're training. So you select Kinesis, and it says it requires coherence, so we can't do that yet. But you do want to get this because this leads up to a line called Strikes, which allows you to put a buff on your weapon. So for the most part, we do want to get that. So let's actually go back now. It says we need coherence. Maybe we need to get coherence. So let's open up the skill tree, which by default is K. Remember this? It looked a little bit different on the page, but this means we've trained in it. If you see this yellow, plus means we can add a new skill to this line, armor. I will say that the ones I use the most are armor, close combat. I don't really use shield or ranged. I do use insight and concentration a little bit. I'm not huge into spells. In fact, if you watch my walkthrough, I barely use spells at all. I think I used it on the final video. So you can actually go through this game and not even use spells. I'm telling you, I've done it. It can be done. However, it'll make your life easier if you use spells. I generally don't like to use them, like I said. I kind of just enjoy long combats, but it's your preference. There's no problem using spells. Don't worry about it. So that said, we needed coherence. So let's train in coherence. And there we go. You see we're training coherence. Now, we haven't filled up anything yet. We'll come back and check this later. There's no experience here yet. So we don't have coherence, but we're training it so we can get kinesis. And you'll start to learn all these lines. You can go ahead and Google them. You can see here that this is highlight, or this shows up. This one isn't really highlighted yet. It means we don't have it. And that's another way you can tell. So again, once this fills up, it will be completed, and we'll get that new warning down here. But you see it's gone now. It's gone because we're training now on coherence. So let's go back to spells. Let's open that up. And we're going to train on something there might be, obviously Kinesis had a requirement. We need to get coherence. We'll get that. Let's see if there's another one. I think Barrier. Nope. Torrent. So let's not waste time. Let's go ahead and just get Torrent. So you see this little halo here? This means we're now training on it. And they're gone. So we'll come back in a little bit and check that and see if it's working. But as you explore and fight, those things are going to go up. In fact, it might a little bit now. Let's check. I don't think so, but we'll check. We can check and see. No, we don't have anything yet, but we'll check a little bit later. Okay. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of this. I mean, this is just like 1% of this entire level. This is level 1. If you go this way, you go this way. Those are locked doors. And we're going to talk about keys. I'm not going to show you how to get the key, but I'm going to tell you that you do need a key, and you'll have to find it. And if you can't find it, you can actually go through my walkthroughs, which I will paste in I'll give the link for that to show you where things are if you get stuck. But generally speaking, you want to try to find those yourself if you can. But if you can't, there's walkthroughs on how to do things. And trust me, I needed some help on walkthroughs too. It's not a problem. Now, one thing I do want to point out is you will feel like you're getting lost in here, but you really can't. Every level, for the most part, has several sections, and those sections are self-contained. Eventually, if I went this way, and this is a huge part of this wing, eventually I'm going to have to come back this way. It's a huge wing, but I can't just indefinitely keep going on. They're divided into sections, and you'll figure it out. Now, there are maps online. You could go Google like level 1 EXANIMA map and then download it, and I recommend that you do that until you start to get some familiarity with this. On your second or third runs, you will eventually know this backwards and forwards, and you won't need it. But I do recommend you do that. In some cases, I actually didn't like the maps, and I made my own map. I did that for 2 or 3 levels. And actually, in some levels, I just did it for an area that I I was struggling with, and it helps you learn the area. I highly recommend that. Okay, so we're going to open this very first door, and we're going to run into our very first zombie. Now, this is a key point I want to make. Be very careful. In fact, in some respects, the game early on is much more challenging because we have no armor. If he hits us, we're probably going to take some blood damage. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. We're going to do some fighting here. But I just wanted to say some of these early zombies will not attack you. So you have to decide whether you want to attack them or not. I'm not going to attack him. We're just going to just walk by him. But be careful, because if you get close to them, they may launch an attack. You have to be real careful. But some of the early levels, they may not attack you. They may be friendly. Or I'm not saying he's friendly, but, he's just not interested in us. Now, if I back up here, you're going to see something interesting. He's going to leave. Just keep that in mind. If you realize they're not going to attack you, you may want to shut this door. In fact, whenever you're looting something, my standard practice mostly is to shut the door, because you don't want something coming in. You are very vulnerable when you are looting chests. And here's our first chest we're going to open up. You just double click it. Oh my gosh, that is, wow, that's a great drop. I don't know if I ever got a bill hook that quick. That is a tremendous first drop. Because that does a lot of damage. That's actually way better. I'm going to keep the torch up, and I will show you that. You will lose the torch. That's the trade-off with the two-handed weapon. Now we can't carry the torch. See how dark it got in here? Now you can flip between weapons, but just keep that in mind. That's one, drawback. Now you will find other areas that are well lighted that you can just, in fact, in here when we're going to take a left, there'll be some lights, so you can actually flip to there and fight. But just keep in mind now, this guy is sort of walking around, and if we got in a fight with another zombie, sometimes he might join in on the fun, and suddenly you're fighting two instead of one. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to go in here. I'm going to shut that door because I don't want him coming in while I'm engaged. But now let's flip to the bill hook, and you can see we can see fine. It's not great. It's probably better with the the torch, but if there's a well-lit area, you can easily switch this and walk around and see what's going on, and see if there's anything around here. Let's flip back to the torch. Yeah, I don't see anything. So let's check and see if we've got any experience. A little bit. See that right there? So just from walking around, we've gotten some experience. So keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. All right, so we're going to fight our first enemy, and we're going to open this door, and I'm going to keep it open. Now, this is some tight quarters in here. I know I've fought this enemy many times. He's got a two-handed weapon. This is the first challenging one. That other guy's really easy, but this one's a little bit challenging. Now, one thing I want to point out, you can pick up a lot of objects in this game, most of them. This is one you'd want to pick up and just move it out of the way. You do not want to run, and you want to think about, do I have an exit strategy here? What is it? Well, it's to get out of this door, okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead, and we're going to fight him. Well, we'll fight him with a bill hook, since we got the bill hook. This guy will pretty much attack you, so I'm just going to do a swing here. And that's the thing. If you do a swing, you're probably going to anger them, and you can do that from a distance, and you can pull them. So I want to pull him out. Generally, I could fight in here, but I generally want to show you how to do this. You can actually just retreat out of here, and now we've got some more space, a little bit more space. Not a lot of space, but it's definitely more. And this is going to make your life a little bit easier. Is he going to come out? I guess he's thinking about coming out. Let's see. All right, so he's going to come out. And remember, attack, defend. Let him swing this thing. You do not want to get hit by this thing earlier. And look at that bill hook. If I had been using that metal stake, that would have taken probably 4 hits. But it's good to switch back to it if you want to have the torch, put the metal stake, and we can keep the metal stake for a while until we find a better one-handed weapon. You will find better one-handed weapons. Okay, so we come in here, and this is kind of what we're doing. We're looking for chests now. Now that's a much better jacket. I can already tell. Than what we have. Well, actually, no, we put that over. So now we've got an additional layer of protection. In fact, we got a leather vest. I don't think we can wear. So this is where you want to do your first comparison. And you can do this. By the way, you can open multiple screens. And I often do that. So you open multiple screens, and you can compare these things. So let's see what's better. See, the coverage is actually better on the light jacket impact, but this has better slash. This has better pierce. So you know what? I'm going to go with the leather vest. We have a little bit less coverage, but I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. We'll hold it. You can hold on to this. Look at that. That hammer is going to be an upgrade. So we're going to take that. And now that has quite a bit of impact. We're going to talk about some of these stats in a bit. But there you go. And that's it. So that's the basic part to get you started. And then you can start exploring around here. Download a map, start looking around here. There's going to be a lot of different objects that you can find. On this level, there's a compass you're looking for. There's keys. There's several items. You're actually looking for somebody else too. I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's several items that you're looking for on this level. And each level will have a special item that will help you on your journey. You can either go through walkthroughs to see what they are, or you can find them yourself, however you want to play the game. And that's one point I do want to make. There is no right way or wrong way to play this game. There really isn't. You can play it how you want. I'm just giving you some of the advice that I sort of learned, but there's no right or wrong way to play this game. All right, so we're going to flip on to a new subject. We're going to talk about equipment. Actually, I lied. There was one thing I do want to show you. And boy, this would be a critical thing not to discuss. And that is the relationship between stamina and health. So we're going to let this guy basically knock the crap out of us. So we're going to flip to... So you notice how he's not attacking me, by the way? He might. I don't know. Let's see up here. Let's see. Let's run into him. No. He's not interested. Okay. Can't get him to fight. Even if I turn my back. Okay. But we're going to pick a fight. So we're going to go into combat. By the way, when you go into combat, they're going to get a little suspicious of you. But let's go ahead and throw it. All right. So let's let her just knock us silly. I want to show you something. Let's make it really bad. We're going to turn around here and just let her take some shots on our back. This is probably a cause injury. We're taking some red damage, and that's what I wanted to show you. Okay, so what I wanted to show you is let's try to win this fight now if I can. Oh, by the way, one thing I just wanted to point that out to you. If you are in deep trouble and you're turned backwards or you sometimes it works to just get close to them or try to run them over. And see how they can't, you can do that as a last, I mean, it's not a great thing to do, but you can actually run them over if you're in deep trouble. And then you can try to run away or do whatever you have to do. So just keep that in mind. Oh, this isn't good. Okay, we got another friendly. Okay, I wanted to explain this, and this guy comes around now. Let's kill him. Of course, I do want to actually... Okay, so what I wanted to show you, I'm actually glad I showed this. This is what I really wanted to show you. I get killed, but we're not killed. It says you've been defeated. Now, I am actually going to wake up again because we lost all the yellow. Now, you better hope that zombie is not standing over you, okay? You have a chance to sort of get resituated again. However, and there are some cases where he is standing over you. Usually it's in his spawn area. Since that wasn't his spawn area, he's probably going to be gone when you wake up. However, if it's in his spawn area, you're probably in deep trouble. So that's what I wanted to show you. There is a relationship between this yellow and the red. Now, for the longest time, I could actually, you know what? We just got coherence. Let's go back to the skill tree. Let's get a new one. Oh, I'm glad I'm showing you this too. One of the most important ones, all the way to the end of the game, is this maneuvering armor. You will start to, I mean, it's not a problem right now, but you will start to gain items that are heavier and heavier and heavier. And I usually like to, there's 3 levels of this. I usually like to get all the levels, okay? So now we're training on, oh, come on. Okay, is he back? Oh, he came back, the same guy, and I'm not in combat mode. All right, so let's try to get him now. So he did come back, and a lot of times if they're in the vicinity, they will come back. That was not a good attack. See, I did not do a dodge attack. I'm trying to, not being patient. Oh, good gosh. You're so weak in the beginning. And I'm actually not used to one-handed. I used long-range weapons mostly. We should flip to that bill hook. You know, that's what we're going to do. So let's go out of combat mode. Let's get to that bill hook. Oh. Okay. Alright, now he's toast. Come on. And you'll see how much difference this range makes, by the way. That's it for him. Just like that. Okay, so, but what I wanted, so that's the, what I wanted to show you, and this is the sort of key here, is this yellow, if this drops, you saw what happened when I got knocked out. If this goes to nothing, you will be knocked out. The red is permanent damage. So you can see my stamina is now recovering, it's building back up, but now, since I've taken some permanent injury damage, that will not go all the way to the top. So that is why this red is really critical. The armor that you wear, and you will start to get much better armor, actually really prevents injury. You are going to take stamina damage when you get hits, at least some amount. It also sort of does prevent stamina, but for the most part, you're really worried about, well, you're worried about both. In fact, if you hit C, it'll pull up your power bar. It will also pull up your health. So again, that's the danger. Is now you're probably going to have some red. It's just the nature of the beast. And you're going to be walking around, you're going to get a lot of fights, and there's going to be some red. You're going to take some injuries. It's just going to happen. But the problem is that red gets lower and lower and lower. Think about it. You're going to have less stamina now in your fights, and so you're going to get knocked out more and more. My general rule of thumb, and this depends on, like, if you were going, I mean, this varies. Like, if you were going into some massively dangerous fight, you'd probably want to take a health potion and get healed up. But my general rule of thumb is that if you've got down to about the halfway point in injuries, it's time to try to remedy that. The remedy are two things. There are health potions, and there's actually regen crystals. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but and we're actually going to take a health potion. I'm going to show you how to do that. But a health potion will restore this injury and get your stamina, allow you to get your stamina to 100%. So that's the basic difference. So if you run out of stamina, you'll saw what happened. I was knocked out, and that's it. I just get back up, and I can put my gear back on, and the stamina will go back up. Now, I will point out that if this red gets low enough, I think it's either 80 or 90%, you will actually die. Then you're starting the whole level over. Now, that's not quite as big deal like levels 1 through 4, but as you get like 5 through 8, that gets more important. I'm not going to ruin it for you, but I'll just say you really don't want to die after 5. You don't want to die at all, but really 5, 6, 7, and 8, that becomes more drastic. I'm not going to say anything more because I don't want to ruin it for you. Okay, so that is a very important topic that I wanted to cover, and I hope I explained that well. Here's your mana bar. We haven't really used any mana yet, but we're going to talk about spells. Well, you know what? That's a good time. Let me just cue some things up here, and we'll talk about spells right now too while we're on the subject. Okay, so like I said, spells are a very, very important part of the game. We talked about the power bar, and if you hit P, it'll pull it up. We can see which ones we have queued up. We now have this one pulled up, which of course is the Force Blast. The Force Blast is probably one you'll be using early on. I would recommend you actually do kind of use this. I don't now because I just don't like to use it because I think there's not a lot of zombies in the game. Well, there is. I say that as I say that there's somebody coming. Oh gosh. Okay. You can see how dangerous it is. We got all these guys showing up. There are quite a few. Some levels have more than the other. All right, so we're going to go bill hook this guy. I don't know if I just hit him there or not. Oh! You can see the bill hooks. Hey, that's to show you how big these two-handed weapons are. That's why you definitely want to practice with them. All right, let's switch back. I'm going to actually keep a weapon on me this time. So again, just keep in mind, so you're going to we'll pull up the power bar and just see what you got. And then you basically can see what you have queued up. That's really the important thing there. And what you want to do to hit that, so I just cast it there. So what you do to cast it is you're going to again, you're going to hit the power bar, and then you're going to hit the number. I was wrong. I don't think this is 0. It's 1 and 2. It's how little I use spells. It shows you, but I do know how to use them. I just don't use them a lot lately. So this is 1. This is 2. So obviously we have the 2 queued up. You hit the 2. Boom. It's gonna use it. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's do it again. Do it again. So remember, hit C for the power bar. Boom. Cast it. Okay. That's how you do it. All right, so let's go out of combat mode, and let's go find a victim here and just see if we can knock him down. I think he's around here somewhere. I don't know where he went. Or did he come and attack us? I don't know where he did. Maybe he walked down here. This is the thing, when you lose track of these guys, who knows where they... Oh, there he is. Okay. Is that the guy? Oh, no, that's a different guy. Okay. He's not attacking us, so let's go ahead and pull up the power bar, and let's hit him. Oh, missed. Okay, let's try it again. There, we knocked him down. That's what I wanted to show you. And that is very useful. I think it does a little bit of damage, but that's the key. I'm just going to run back here because I don't feel like fighting him. Let's just run away. He got a he got injured us there. Let's just... Oh, gosh. And this is the danger you can run into, by the way. Look, they're showing up all over the place. Maybe we can shut the door here. I want to show you this, too. You can escape them sometimes. If you're lucky, you can get that door shut if you're in trouble. And now, they don't open doors, as far as I know. I've never seen one actually open a door. So, if you shut that door, now we're safe. So, that's one thing you can do. Sprint. The sprint button is, I believe it's the, I've made it right shift. Let me see what that is again. I'll have to look and see what that is real quick. The sprint, I'm looking it up here. I've got the default. Yes, it's just the shift button. I made it right shift, but you can make it what you want. Okay, so there is that aspect of the game, how to use spells. And just remember, pull up your power bar, and use those numbers. They equate. You'll get a lot more spells, and you'll start dragging them into that power bar. Barrier. I mean, there's all kinds of ones. The big one I like again is the strikes, but you need to get kinesis and then follow that line up. Let's pull that up again. You need to get kinesis. We can actually get kinesis now. You could actually. I think we were training on torrent though, so we should keep that up. But we could now get. Oh no, we haven't got coherence yet. Did we get? I thought we got coherence. Anyways, so that is that. I thought we did get it. Let's just, I shouldn't be. This is a tutorial, so I don't really care. But I thought we got, did we get coherence? I thought we did. Or maybe it was a different, maybe I'm looking, let's go back and look. What did we need for that now? Requires coherence. Oh, we can train it. What am I doing here? Yeah, so you can now train in it. So yeah, and remember it was stopping us because we didn't have coherence. Now it lets us do it because we just saw that halo. Okay, so now we are going to move over and talk about some other topics, more late game well, not actually, they're not late game. We need to. I want to show you how to use a healing potion, and then some other aspects that will help you on your way. Well, I lied again. There was actually another topic I wanted to show you and talk about a little bit. There's so many topics in this game, and by the way, if there's anything that I miss, let me know. I might make a second tutorial on this, but the big one is locked doors. Now, you're going to run into some doors in this game. You try to open it, you're going to get that lock sound. But the good news is, for every locked door, there is a key that opens it. You just have to find it. So here's the key. I know that this key opens the door, so you just double-click the key. You actually don't even need to get near the lock. You just need to hit the door, and then it'll open it up, and then you can go in there. And usually there is something really sweet. This is an iron chest. Look at that. We got an awesome pair. That's a huge find. Look at those gloves. So we're building our armor up now. So look at that. So that's a really, now we have some coverage on our hands. And every area of this body can take a potential hit. So again, You want to get armor over it and get protected. It will protect you from injuries mostly, but it will also reduce some of the stamina hits that you take as well. So just very important. Now, one more important thing about keys. Keys do not work on other levels. So for the most part, once you're at I usually keep the key till I get to the end of the level and then just discard it. Then just throw it away because you won't need it. For the most part, most keys just open up a single door. There are a couple that will open up both doors. So I just usually hold them till I reach the end of the level, and then again, I just discard them because I don't need them. Okay, now we need to talk about picking up objects, so that's the next topic. Okay, one important topic to talk about is there are going to be several areas in the game, several levels, where you will come to a area where there's almost a bottomless pit. I don't think it's bottomless, but that drops probably 100, 150 feet. You will die. That won't be a stamina hit. That'll just be you are dead and you are starting over wherever your wherever they're going to send you. It could be to the end of the level. It could be somewhere else. So just letting you know, you have to be very careful on any ledges that you're on. And you will come to these at several points in the game where there's an impasse here. But there's always some boards nearby that you can use. Now, in order to move a board or rotate it if you have to, there is the you can use your movement keys. So once you pick it up, you can move it left by whatever you're assigned to that. I've got the arrows, but for you, if you just keep WASD, it would be the WASD buttons to rotate this. Okay, you can rotate it both ways. For me, since I'm using the arrow, it's the left to move it left, and the right arrow to move it right. You can also move it up and down with your up and down keys. The WASD keys again if you're using that. If you get it kind of weird, you can always drop it and just flatten it out again. And I usually just don't use the up down. I usually just move it from right to left. Then what we can do is move it over this this ledge here. And sometimes you have to see. Let's drop it again. This kind of needs to be. Get it close here, and now you can go across. Now, this, like I said, you go over this, you have to be very careful because this is actually worse than fighting enemies in some respects. Because at least you have a chance here. If you fall over here, you're dead. You're not. You're going to basically be kicked back to the start of the level, or even worse. So when you are going over these, keep in mind if you click the mouse, it will point your guy. So if you're on a really tight one, you can use that mouse to sort of angle a little bit where you need to be pointed. So just keep that in mind. So I'm gonna go out here, but oops, we need to like move them a little bit. Just keep in mind before you move, you can kind of click the mouse to arrange your guy the way you need to. And then we can pick this board up. I think there's going to be many. This is like a very long platform. We can pick this up, bring it along with us, and move down. So just keep that in mind. That's how you. That's the physics of this game, and there's a lot of other objects that you can pick up to do all sorts of things in this game. And you may figure some new things out. If you do, please post it. I actually figured something out and put it out there. I don't think anybody had figured it out yet, and several people told me it was something new. So again, the physics in this game are rather amazing, and it's not just going over ledges. You can do things with certain levers and all kinds of things with the physics in this game that are just incredible. Okay, I saved the best for last. We need to talk about equipment, the condition of items, very important to talk about, and as well as Darren, who's your buddy on this trip. Yeah, there he is right there. You can see I've given him some pretty awesome armor. We'll be talking about him, and save the best for last. We'll talk about Darren. But first we need to talk about several topics relating to equipment and weapons. First we're going to talk about weapons. Like I just kind of showed you, the two-handers are going to do the most damage. And late game, these are going to get very important. The ones I like are the two-handed mace, the pole hammer, which is actually, this is the very weapon that I use at the end of the game. I love it. Actually, for the last several levels. And then the pole axe. So these, you'll get the two-handed mace first. It's very useful. You can use this for a long time. Then you get the pole axe. You'll want to alternate between these two, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And then the pole hammer has kind of the best of both worlds, but definitely this is a tremendous weapon that I use for the final couple levels, and it's my default weapon. So again, you're going to be using the two-handers, less one-handers, but there may be some instances will use a one-hander. I'm not saying you won't. So let's talk about the main differences between these weapons. Now, poleaxe is geared towards slash, as you can see. The polehammer and the two-handed mace have no slash. What does that mean? Crush is useful against enemies with armor. Slash is useful for enemies with, well, it does have a little crush, but you can see the crush ability on these is much greater. Slash is good with enemies that have no armor or weak armor. Does really well, especially against non-armored enemies. There are a few non-armored enemies late in the game, which this is very useful. That's why I keep it. It does have some use, and that's the thing. You kind of want to have keep some weapons that do well against different types of enemies in your inventory. So I generally like to keep these three. I also keep a one-handed weapon as well, just in case I need it. So again, just keep that in mind. That's the basic difference. If you can understand that, you can really understand how this game works. Crush, you want to use against heavily armored enemies. Slash, against lighter armored enemies and enemies that have no armor. Very, very useful. Okay, so that's important to know. The other thing that you can kind of look at, it definitely, range, as we talked about, is a huge big deal in this game. Having a longer range, you're going to be able to hit them, they're not going to be able to hit you, but it works opposite too. You'll run into enemies that actually have longer range weapons than you. So the longer the weapon, I feel that's very important. And you can tell they don't really have a height stat in here, but you can see just in your inventory, you can see here probably the poleaxe is the longest, or maybe the polearm. But we can see that the two-handed mace is a little bit shorter than those weapons. Obviously this is a one-handed weapon, this mace, so that is much shorter. So that's how you can kind of tell what's longer and what's not. So that's the first thing. All right, so there's two other important categories that they all have: impact and balance. You will actually find some weapons that have no balance, but pretty much every weapon is going to have some sort of impact, or it's not really a weapon. Impact is obviously speaks for itself. That's how much damage it's going to do. Obviously, these all have the same impact. They're going to do about the same damage, but this one obviously would do more because it has a higher crush, the polehammer. That's why I love the polehammer. It's longer than the two-handed mace, so it has like the same length of the poleaxe, but it does much better on the crush. Balance is the speed of the weapon. This is a very important stat. Obviously, like if we look at this mace, well, this doesn't have actually a good balance, but a lot of the one-handed weapons will have a much higher balance. But just keep that in mind. This is the speed of the weapon. So this two-handed mace is going to swing slower than the poleaxe and the polehammer, and that's really the beauty of the polehammer. You get this extra half point of swinging it, and you get more crush. So this is just the better weapon in general. So that's how all of that works. I don't use thrust that much. That is for sort of spearing the enemy. I don't really use that. So, but it's really useful with spears early on if you get some spears. But generally speaking, I don't do the thrust move. But if you're interested in it, I'm sure you can Google it. Okay, so there is that. Now, let's talk about something very important to talk about. Let's actually open this up too. So, weapons and equipment. You will see this thing called an extremely well-made pole hammer in flawless condition. So just chew on that for a minute. Okay, extremely well-made and flawless condition. Those are the two things you're worried about. Let's take a look at this poleaxe here. It is fairly well-made and in fair condition. This means whoever the blacksmith was, or maybe it was the same blacksmith, made this a lot better than this poleaxe was made. So you want to go for, if something is extremely well, I believe that's the highest you can go. You definitely want to get that. Let's say this was a polehammer over here and we were deciding between these two. We would definitely take this, the extremely well made. You can also tell by the how highlighted this is. So you see how like this is standing out in yellow? That's why this is extremely well made. As you go down and get worse and worse weapons that are poorly made, this will get less and less bright. So you can see why this is not as bright as this. So that's how that works. Here's the other huge thing. You're going to eventually run into these things called orbs. Yes. Orbs are very important. They allow you to upgrade either your equipment or your weapons. However, here's the big thing. They cannot improve how the weapon was made originally. That can't be done. But what it can do is increase the condition. And when you increase the condition, generally speaking, the pole will get a little bit brighter. Looks a little shinier. You can see how shiny this one, because this is in flawless condition. Let's go ahead and upgrade the poleaxe. Now, keep an eye on these stats. They might go up, they might not. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. But it's generally speaking, if you get up to a flawless weapon, you're going to probably have some increase in the stats. So you double click the orb. Actually, let's bring the orb out here. We're going to double click it, and then we're going to click on this axe, and look at that. It increased the stats, and now it's in good condition. Let's go ahead and get it into flawless. Why not? Let's get a flawless. Now, oh, it's in extremely good condition. Now, look, it didn't increase the stats that time. Let's try it again. And it didn't even do it that. So just keep in mind, sometimes it will not give you an increase in stats. Sometimes it will. I think that relates to how well it was made. So if it's extremely well made, you're probably going to get a much bigger bonus in the stats, just to let you know. So just keep that in mind. Depending on how many orbs, now if you find a ton of orbs, you can be a little bit liberal, but I would generally try to save these for items that you're like your favorite item. Like this is one of my favorite items in the game, and if you find an extremely well made item, I would save those for an extremely well made. Would you really want to upgrade something that was in poor condition? No. Fairly well made? No. Fairly well made, I guess, is okay if you can't find another of that armament and you really like it. But see how this got shiny? You can see that. Okay, so there's that. All right. So let's close this out. Now we're going to also upgrade some equipment. We're going to talk a little bit about equipment now. Equipment has kind of the same concept, only the big difference, I mean, it's the same sort of stats, and this is, of course, for protection. So you can compare these out. You can see this one is very well made. This one is just well made. This is why this is a little bit brighter, because this one was very well. So you already sort of get that. Again, we can't improve how it's made, but we can improve if it's in fairly good condition. So let's go ahead and see if we can get, actually, let's go over here. You can see how shiny this might already be in flawless. No, it's in very good condition. Let's see if we can get an upgrade in the stats here. Let's put this in flawless. So let's go ahead. I don't know if you can do this on, it might have to be in my inventory. Oh, it did. And look, the stats went up. We just put this in flawless condition. Look how it's even shinier now. And those stats did go up. So that's an even better condition. Okay. So I think you get how this works. Coverage is also important. That's really the big thing between these armor pieces and the encumbrance. You want to sort of look at those. Obviously, you want to look at all the stats. Obviously, these three are huge. I'm not as much worried about pierce, but impact, slash, crush. Well, even pierce, yeah, because there are some enemies that do it. So you want to kind of compare that. This one has greater coverage, so just keep that in mind. You're going to have a little bit more protection from injuries with this one. But this one has better stats, so it's kind of a trade-off. You'll sort of look at these. And this one, though, adds more encumbrance, so you're going to be a little bit slower in this. In fact, let's put that on. Let's put it on, and I'll show you how we're going to get some encumbrance going here. Though I have all the skills. Actually, it didn't, because I'm actually adding the attribute. If I added more, I probably could get some encumbrance here. Let's add this in. Well, no, I don't want to, because I want to show you something else. But I've actually got those skills which lower encumbrance. But just keep in mind, this is probably going to be, you're going to be a little bit quicker in this with because it has a little bit less encumbrance. All right. So the final thing I want to show you here is keep in mind that some of these items will cover your arms. So notice this breastplate does not cover arms, so you will have to wear arm pieces. This one will actually cover all your arms up to the point of wearing gloves. So just keep that in mind. Some of these have a greater amount of coverage, but the really big area you'll notice this is with leggings. So this is some plate leggings. Now you'll notice here these are two separate pieces. I'm wearing plate greaves and I'm wearing shoes. Now I just wanted to show you this. For example, I would have been wearing this instead, but I wanted to show you what happens when I put this on. Let's actually drop these orbs. Don't need them. So if I put this on, this is now going to cover up my entire length of my legs. Look at that. So now I'm not wearing the legs or the shoes. Took them both off. But the stats are way more awesome than these two, so it's worth it. And if you had something covering your thighs, that would be displaced too. So I just wanted to point that out. All right, the final thing we're going to talk about is good old Darren. Darren is a companion. I'm not going to tell you where you're going to find him, but eventually you will find him. If you want to talk to Darren, you hit the T button. And when you first meet him, you're going to go through a whole, he's going to sort of give you his history. He's going to tell you he's not very good at fighting. He's not lying about that. He is not very good at fighting. But he is your companion. He will follow you. I generally leave him in a safe spot when I come to a new level. And then after I complete the level, I will come back and get him because I don't want to get him killed. There are a few times, he's not very good at fighting, but he can actually be, if you're struggling with a particular enemy, you can actually use him to your advantage. Maybe you can, they will target him and you can get in a few good shots. I will say though that if you're going to use him, my general rule of thumb is you want to get the enemy between you and him, and then he can take some shots from the back, and you can, and maybe the enemy gets distracted, turns around, attacks him a little bit, and then you can land some really awesome shots. And there are a few scenarios where I've actually had to use him. So now, better to use him when he's got all his armor. He's going to do a lot more. He's going to survive a lot longer. So he's a little bit better, after round 3, I would say. But the more armor you get on him, the better. And my general strategy is when I discard an armor, I don't need it, I replace it, I'll give him that piece I was wearing. And you can see he looks pretty formidable now. Looks very formidable. In order to, so again, you can have him follow you. And in order to have a further discussion, he needs to follow you. If you hit the talk again, then you can look at his equipment. And you can start dragging pieces on and off, One thing I do like to use him for, he's kind of like a moving, storage facility. You can, once your storage fills up, you can, in fact, put items on him. But generally speaking, like I said, I do not have him follow me. Let's talk to him again. Just tell him to wait here. And if I need him, I'll come and get him. All right, we have one final topic to talk about, and that is healing potions. Here you can see I've got a few of them. To see your health, you hit the C button and it will pull it up. You can see, now normally I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to do this anyways to show you. I'm going to double click on the potion. I'm going to click on me. That's it. You can see now it's empty. You might as well just drop it. It's no good. But you're going to start seeing this slowly sort of build back, get rid of the injury. So that's how you get rid of injuries. I normally would have taken this if it was down here, but I wanted to show you, look, it's recuperating. You do, so it's more like a regen potion, I would say. You do not want to take these when you're in combat. I don't find that useful. I do find it useful if, like we're not in combat now. It's good just to take it when you're not in combat. And then, because again, it's only slowly going to restore this. So generally, if you're going into a big fight, you take it before that big fight, you get healed up, then you go into that fight. Now, the final topic we're going to talk about is crystals. You will start to find these, and there are some items that take these. I'm going to show you 2 that do, but there are many others that take items. Crystals. The only way it takes a crystal is if it has a socket. If it has a socket, you can put a crystal in it. So you will, what you want to do is when you get a piece of either armor or a weapon that takes a socket, go Google it and Google what these crystals do. Now, generally speaking, the 2 that I use the most, I don't use the yellow as much, but the green is generally speaking for health. Yes, this actually is like a healing potion. So if you, so this mask can take a green one, you put it on, and it will start healing you. I'm not going to do it here. We'll put it in. And if I put, now I'm not injured, so it's really not going to do anything right now, but I will tell you that if I put that mask on, it will start healing me up. So that's almost like you're getting a healing potion. That's the way you want to think of that. The blue one adds effects to certain things. But this, I think it gives it lightning. I forget what this does. Yes, see? Now this gives lightning. Really cool effect, and actually will do more damage. The other big one is this piece of armor I have over here. Oh, I'm glad I showed this to you. So this takes a crystal. Look how kind of dim that is. If we put it in, look how brighter it is. So that's another thing I wanted to point out. These eventually will expire. They do expire over time, and when they expire, you can't use them anymore. So this will get dimmer and dimmer over time, so just let you know that. You'd then have to go, if you wanted to reuse it, you'd have to go back and put a new one in. So I usually save the crystals if I need them for big fights. You don't want to just be walking around using them at all times. I wouldn't do that. I will say this, you basically can, I would say the green one is probably the most important, but the blue is important too. Now what this does, with this armor set, it makes you run faster. Look at this encumbrance. But once this expires, you'll move a lot slower. Okay, I think I have covered a lot in this. Okay, I actually watched a video and there were a few more points that I wanted to make that I sort of missed. First thing is, let's open up the skill tree again and look at these skills. Currently I have 10, and you can only go up to 15. You can only train up to 15. So I guess what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so there would be 30 that you could do. You can only do half of them effectively, and I've only got what, 3, 8, 9, 10. So, and I'm near the end of the game here. I'm not going to even be able to train in all those. Well, I guess I could if I started walking around more. I probably could, but so it's not a necessity that you have to go to 15, but that is the limit. The other thing I want to talk about was combat a little bit more. One thing I sort of failed to mention, let's actually get in combat mode here and pretend that we're going to attack Darren, that we wouldn't. You want to never fight like with the camera. If you press the scroll bar and move the camera, you never want to fight like in this way or from the side or from behind. You always want to have that camera down and right behind you. So as you move that circle, try to keep the camera going with you right behind you. Now you will eventually, as you get better at fighting, you can sort of swing from the side view. But for when you're starting out, I highly recommend that you do the basic view, which is camera down, not up, down, and right behind your guy. And as you're moving your guy, try to keep that camera going with him, okay? And then another thing, I think I made a little mistake. When I said you click the left button and swing, it's going to swing it from right to left. I think I said left to right. It's actually right to left. And also, by the way, you can use the mouse to do like a greater swing. I mean, you can practice these. You can take, especially when you have the pole weapons. Let's get that. You can take some monster swings. You got to be careful now because it will expose you more. But you can take some really big swings, you know, as big as you want. But obviously, you can see the bigger swing you take, I'm now hitting these poles. So just be mindful of that. But you can see there, I just took a huge swing, and practice that. Practice the motion of the swing too. But generally, like I said, the did I say that left or right again? I meant to say right to left. I'm having problems. So you're starting out from your right and you're swinging to your left. That's what the left click does. Right to left. Right to left. And that's the basic motion that you want to learn and practice with the one-handed and two-handed weapons. Thanks for watching.